Okay, listen, I think it's important that we get a little backstory in reference to this Luigi situation, United Healthcare. What sparked all this? There's a lot going on, all right? I think this is important for us to talk about. Elizabeth Warren was heading a Senate hearing, and it was, I guess, the Financial Committee. They were actually interviewing a CEO from United Healthcare, and this was May, around May, so about 7 months ago. She is grilling him about the monopolistic practices that they are actually implementing at United Healthcare and why it's detrimental to the patients. And let's take a listen to what she had to say as she was grilling the CEO. Mind you, they're getting paid about $10 million a year. So this is the finance committee. She's tearing him apart, and she's just grilling him about the reality. You guys, this is 7 months ago, and she specifically calls this a monopoly. You guys, and as I heard this and I watched this, I said, now it's all making sense where the monopoly thing came from, rightfully so.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Mr. Witty, in 2023, United Health raked in a whopping $22 billion in profits, making you the most profitable healthcare company in the country. In fact, by revenue, United Health is the 11th largest company in the entire world. Now, Mr. Witty, United Health Group owns the country's largest insurer, the country's largest claims processor, the country's third largest pharmacy benefit manager, a huge pharmacy chain. It is the largest employer of physicians nationwide, or controller, with at least 90,000 physicians, as you just testified. That's about 1 out of every 10 doctors in the country. Is that correct about your size?
Thank you, Senator.
Holy crap, you guys. I'm gonna be honest. I had no idea United Healthcare was that large, the 11th largest company. And the monopoly, as you hear her actually explaining basically all the connections and leverage and power that they have within the healthcare industry. Okay? 1 out of 10 doctors. Jeez. Ooh. Man, oh man. And listen, I've been monitoring their stock. Their stock price is like 500 a share. I don't think it's dropped much, even since this whole ordeal has been holding strong. So anyways, let's hear what Mr. Witty has to say. Maybe a witty response.
As far as the physicians are concerned, we employ just under 10,000,
Well,
and
as
the
I
rest
said,
are
I think
affiliated.
you have control over about 90,000.
I would say not control. They choose to work with us.
Okay. Great. Because United Health has bought up every link in the healthcare chain, you are now in a position to jack up prices, squeeze competitors, hide revenues, and pressure doctors to put profits ahead of patients. United Health is a monopoly on steroids. The opportunities for price gouging are everywhere. For example, United Health is the biggest participant in Medicare Advantage, the government program that pays private insurers to administer Medicare benefits. With this web of subsidiaries, United Health is well positioned to rake in more taxpayer money by using a practice called upcoding to make enrollees look sicker. That is, noticing that a patient has a cane and adding a diagnosis of vascular disease to the medical chart, even if there's no clinical basis for the diagnosis and no treatment planned. Mr. Witty, according to a 2019 investigation by the HHS Inspector General, United Health.
That's fraud at its highest level. And essentially, basically, you're like upcharging. Essentially, if as a patient, you're basically saying, I came in with a sprained ankle, and then but on the coat you're coding it as the ankle's broken. All right, so then you're gouging, you're getting more money out for something that may have relatively not really cost a lot. You're essentially 10xing your profit. Sheesh. Nasty business.
Health was far and away the most aggressive abuser of upcoding practices. Do you know how much, according to the Inspector General, UnitedHealth cheated taxpayers out of in 2017?
Senator, thank you for the question. I'm not familiar with that particular piece of work.
The number is $3.7 billion, and that's in just a single year, and that's from only 2 upcoding practices. You know, that was 5 years ago. Now,
oh my God. What? So, oh my God. No wonder they can pay their CEOs $10 million a year. Criminal, man. I just feel like these people get in these positions, they have no heart, man. It's like you almost have to sell your heart, destroy your heart in order to mingle with people on that level in a lot of cases. You know how evil you got to be to know you're doing something like that? You know, it'd be one thing if these guys and gals were actually taking care of the people and then robbing them afterwards, right? Then nobody would look. I always say that. If corruption would be different, even with government corruption, if they actually took care of the things that they're responsible for taking care of, and then they're like, okay, there's leftover in the pot, we're going to use it for ourselves. We're going to put it in our pocket, right? I'd be less concerned, right? I'd be like, that's a tip. How about you tip yourself? You guys did a great job. But they tear up the money, use the money, and they don't ever do what they're responsible for doing, and they're never held accountable. Right? That's the issue. I can respect, you know, I can respect post-corruption. I can't respect pre-corruption. Pre-corruption. That just sounded a little... Anyways.
Now, as we speak, is UnitedHealth under investigation from the DOJ for, among other things, your billing practices?
Senator, thank you for your question. We have a long-standing practice of not commenting on matters such as that or things like mergers and acquisitions.
Well, I understand why you might not want to comment on it. Public reporting from the Wall Street Journal confirms that it is, although your company has not disclosed this investigation. In fact, yesterday I sent the SEC a letter raising concerns about over $100 million in stock sales that UnitedHealth executives made in the days and weeks before the investigation was revealed by the press. And I'd like to make that part of the hearing record if I can, Mr. Chairman.
Objection, sword.
Okay, so UnitedHealth is huge and it boosts.
Okay, now we're getting into the weeds of things, right? She just mentioned about how before the investigation into their fraudulent practices got released, folks started selling off their shares. Nancy Pelosi. Who else was involved? You guys, this is how this thing started to unfold. This is where the backstory came from, right? This is how it started to unfold. Okay, the question is, who was working with the Department of Justice in this investigation? All right, let me give you my theories. After this.
Its multi-billion-dollar profits with, among other things, illegal billing tactics. And that takes me to the data breach. After the largest cyber attack on the healthcare industry in American history, quote, put hundreds of thousands of healthcare providers at risk of collapse, UnitedHealth is now using the crisis to expand its monopoly even further. For example, in Oregon, UnitedHealth tried to purchase a local physician practice, but faced enormous public opposition. After the data breach that we're talking about today, these doctors couldn't get reimbursed for their services, which pushes them to the financial breach. So what did UnitedHealth do? They filed an emergency petition with regulators to allow them to acquire the doctor's practice on an expedited basis. Mr. Witty, will this acquisition make UnitedHealth even bigger?
All right, before you answer that, this is basically what she's saying, right? Whether point A or point B is true, basically this is the scenario. An incident happened. United Healthcare wanted to buy these practices, and they're like, nah, we're not selling out, right? We're going to keep it. We're going to stand strong. And our sovereignty, we're going to stand strong. And then this is basically what happened. The incident took place, okay? Let's just break it down like that. The incident took place. The doctors end up not being able to basically afford their practice anymore. And then all of a sudden, the golden saviors, United Healthcare, comes and say, hey, how about you sell yourself to us? One could argue, is it possible United Healthcare destabilized the industry for these doctors to where they weren't able to basically maintain their practice just so they can go and acquire them anyways? You guys, you have major corporations, they do stuff like that, right? They do stuff like that. Whether they're trying to acquire property or land and things like that, they'll make your life really miserable and force you to sell, right? Hey, we need to buy this land that you're on. It's not for sale. It's been in my family for generations, right? Then they create some type of disturbance, something that forces your hand, or they acquire you through eminent domain. You get what I'm saying? So these corporations backdoor you all day long, or they'll set up a scenario and, run to you, act like they are actually saving you when in fact they actually cause a problem. This is textbook corporate greed tactics. It's like Monopoly, the game. My brother was a master at Monopoly, guys. Growing up, we used to play. He used to focus so much on the blue properties, Park Ave, and what's the other one? I forgot the other ones, but you put houses on those bad boys. You put them red houses on there, and you always got to walk through there before you hit start. Boy, he used to tax and tax and tax. I never understood why he was always in a hurry to put houses on his properties. And he'd get the Park Avenue and Boardwalk. I think if I remember off the top of my head, I'll never forget. Used to have PTSD playing the game with him. We used to play all night, next day, leave the game same way. And he put houses, man. He get them red houses on, and he'd tear you up coming across the board. You roll that dice, you be praying you don't land on Park Avenue, And then what would my brother start doing? He was so cruel. He'll do stuff like, hey, I know you ain't got no money, but I'll take that one property you got. All right, you got that train, you got Pennsylvania. You got Pennsylvania? Let me get Pennsylvania, I'll let you slide. Monopoly at a young age teaches people about real capitalism, how to be a loan shark. So shout out to my brother, I love him to death. He's a genius. All right, moving on.
Senator, thank you for your question. I'd just like to also put on the record that we, as an
I
organization...
had a very simple question. Will it make United Health, this giant, this 11th largest company in the entire world, even bigger?
As new organizations join us, the organization, I hope, becomes better as new physicians, for example, join.
The question is not better. We've already talked about your business practices. The question is bigger. Will it make United Health bigger?
As we grow, we become larger, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, United Health is using its own data breach to snap up doctors' practices that have been driven to the edge of bankruptcy by that same data breach. It's no wonder that United Health told its shareholders that this data breach would have, quote, no material impact on the company's finances. United Health will stop at nothing to grow bigger and bigger as we speak. United Health is trying to pick the bones of Stewart Health Care in my home state of Massachusetts, which was ruined by private equity and corporate greed. It is time for regulators to say no to these efforts to get bigger and to suck even more health dollars away from patients and providers who need it. For the sake of our patients, our doctors and nurses, and the American taxpayer, it is time to break up the United Health monopoly.
The time of my colleague has expired. Next in
Ooh. She let him have it. What do you guys think? So now you kind of know what United Healthcare was doing, right? Is United Healthcare responsible for initiating a false flag, right? Like they essentially created or made you believe that there was a data breach in order to basically devour competition. That's cold-blooded. And you know why it's cold-blooded? Because they already making multiple billions a year. Greed, man, is a sick, sick disease, man, and once you get it, it's hard to shake it off. You know, it's sick, you guys, but that's the nature of the beast. You know, greed runs this country, corruption runs this country. It's all through it, and this is what you get. This is exactly what you get. People lose it. People are willing to do whatever to fix it when it gets out of control. So, what are your thoughts? Let me hear what you got to say at the bottom. You guys like, comment, share, subscribe, and let's continue to follow this crazy case. All right, with that, good night. God bless.